Left of the box. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau with Australia and New Zealand just released a joint statement on the reports of Israel's planned military operation in Rafah. We urge the Israeli government not to go down this path. There is simply nowhere for civilians to go. And let's see how strong this statement actually is. The Prime Ministers of Australia, Canada, and New Zealand today issued the following statement on reports of Israel's planned military operation in Rafah. Now, for those of you who don't know, which if you're watching my channel, I would imagine you do know, what is happening in Rafah is unimaginable horror. So many people in Gaza were told to go there because it was supposed to be a safe area to go. So you have over 1 million people just kind of crunched into this one small area. And then Israel and the IDF come in and say, we think there's some Hamas there, so we're going to start bombing. And so many civilians are dying from this. They're attacking the hospitals, the supposed safe places for people to go. There's been reports of just the worst you can possibly imagine. And it's happening to just innocent people, children. And this is the best my government can do, is this statement? We have to demand better of our leaders. We can't just let another nation get away with this level of horror. I think that's part of the reason why I'm just not feeling well. It's the stress of knowing what's happening there. In the morning when I turn on the tap to take my medication, I think about it. I think about my access to this water and how we often, swirl the glass and dump it out before you actually put the water in. And the fact that I have my medication and that I can use the toilet first thing in the morning. And I feel it knowing that there's so many people over there that don't even have access to a washroom, let alone clean water. It's always there, it's always in the back of the mind. And I think, on the surface, I often don't think I'm feeling it too much, like I'm feeling it, but it's always there under the surface. And I think at times it just kind of overwhelms me and I just kind of shut down. And I think I'm about at that place. But it's important to keep going. It's important to report on these stories because we're documenting history, everything that's going on over there. It is so. Anyway, let's see our strongly worded condemnation for what's happening by the brave Justin Trudeau, who is just an absolute horrid person. So, we are gravely concerned by indications that Israel is planning a ground offensive into Rafah. A military operation into Rafah would be catastrophic. About 1.5 million Palestinians are taking refuge in the area, including many of our citizens and their families. With the humanitarian situation in Gaza already dire, the impacts on the Palestinian civilians from an expanded military operation would be devastating. We urge the Israeli government not to go down this path. There is simply nowhere else for civilians to go. And keep in mind, any innocent person there that even just shows the slightest bit of resistance to being harassed, to being assaulted by the IDF when they are there, will be shot and labeled as Hamas. Because I've heard there's reports of there's been some combat at some of the houses when we were trying to clear them out, and so it's all Hamas. But it's not. It's people probably just defending themselves, probably not wanting to be kicked out of their homes. And here you have people left with nothing, being assaulted and threatened, the people near them being killed, and they're supposed to just sit there and take it? And the instant they fight back, will just give the IDF all the excuse they want to really just unleash on the population. And again, it's hard to think about what's happening over there. There is a growing international consensus. Israel must listen to its friends and it must listen to the international community. If you're still friends with this nation, go to hell. It's just, no. You can't be friends with a nation. It is just, Canada cannot be friends with Israel, not with what they're doing. And also nations, to put that type of relationship into nations just doesn't, we're not friends. We might have trade relations and stuff, but to give it that kind of personalization relationship of friendship, it's kind of gross. The protection of civilians is paramount and the requirement under international humanitarian law. Palestinian civilians cannot be made to pay the price of defeating Hamas. An immediate humanitarian ceasefire is urgently needed. It's urgently needed. Okay, just hold that thought for a moment. Hostages must be released. The need for humanitarian assistance in Gaza has never been greater. Rapid, safe, and unimpeded humanitarian relief must be provided to civilians. The International Court of Justice has been clear. Israel must ensure the delivery of basic services and essential humanitarian assistance, and it must protect civilians. The court's decision on provisional measures are binding. Are you fucking kidding me? So first of all, they're saying there needs to be a humanitarian ceasefire, but they aren't actually calling for one. It's more like, well, if Israel does it, we'll go along with it, but we're not actually going to directly tell them to stop killing civilians. And it's like all of a sudden, oh yeah, we're going to say the International Court of Justice, says that we must be delivering basic, essential humanitarian relief and stuff. And yet our nations stopped our funding to UNRWA, the only organization that has the infrastructure in place to deliver these absolute necessities to the civilian population. Not to mention suddenly, oh, well, the ICJ ruled on this, that, we must be giving humanitarian aid, so we'll accept that. And yet they still say that they do not believe in the premise of Israel committing a genocide or the potential of it. This isn't the statement they think it is. Oh my God. I just want to scream at all of our politicians, and it gets so much worse in just a little bit as we're going to go over. I can't believe that they're handing out this statement like it's a good thing. Our countries have the power to do something and they're doing nothing. Let's get back to it. We are clear that a sustainable ceasefire is necessary to finding a path towards securing a lasting peace for Israelis and Palestinians. Again, they're not actually saying there needs, to call on Israel for a ceasefire. They're just saying, it would be nice if you guys did this. It is kind of needed, but we're not going to directly tell you to do a ceasefire. Because, well, then if you don't, then we might actually have to do something about it. Any ceasefire cannot be one-sided. Hamas must lay down its arms and release all hostages immediately. We again, unequivocally, condemn Hamas for its terrorist attacks on Israel on October 7th. Are you fucking kidding me? They can't even get through this statement of Israel is actually, committing a potential genocide here, and yet we're still going to bring up Hamas and that attack back on October 7th like it's still the same thing. No, these are two separate things at this point. What Israel is doing, there is no justification for what Israel is doing to the people in Gaza right now. It doesn't matter. And they're talking about the hostages. Oh, and it can't be one-sided. It is one-sided. It is Israel, the government, the IDF, indiscriminately attacking innocent people, slaughtering innocent people and children. Hamas isn't doing that. They're not doing that. They had an attack, which is horrible, and everyone acknowledges, but they can't even get through a statement of saying, you know what, this is getting pretty bad, and we don't want you to actually go in Rafah, and oh yes, we condemn Hamas. I can't get over how absolutely spineless our governments are when it comes to this. And again, there's still no mention of the deaths, no condemnation of the deaths that Israel has been perpetrating, no mention of the hostages Israel has. No, Hamas must also lay down their arms if they expect anything to end here. And at this point, would they even notice? Would the IDF even notice if all of Hamas surrendered, or would they just shoot them as soon as they see the white flags, which they have been doing to people? The reality is, the IDF, the Israeli government, they don't want Hamas to surrender. They want to keep on with this campaign. It is just disgusting to watch our governments stand by and do nothing while this horror is being unleashed. Ultimately, a negotiated political solution is needed to achieve lasting peace and security. They're never going to have that now. Anyone who survives in Gaza, all the Palestinians there that survive, how can they not be radicalized? Every child there has trauma. Every person there has trauma. Everyone there has lost friends and family. Everyone there has been injured in some way. Even if they haven't been injured by a bomb or a gun or anything like that, they are literally now starving to death. They can't get the medication they need. How can you expect anyone who survives this not to want to take down the government of Israel for what they did? How can you expect them to not be radicalized after this? Australia, Canada, and New Zealand remain steadfast in their commitment to a two-state solution, including the creation of a Palestinian state alongside Israel, where Palestinians and Israelis live side by side in peace, security, and dignity. Well, you have to try to tell the Israelis that's the goal. Because look at the West Bank. They keep on invading that. They keep on taking their land. They keep on sending in settlers with guns and everything. They keep on putting restrictions on. It's Israel who never respects the two-state solution. Just absolute garbage coming from our politicians.